Imagine reading 50 different comments online from 50 different people, all agreeing. Now imagine none of those 50 people actually exist. Not bots in the old, obvious sense, typos, broken grammar, the same message, copy-pasted, something much stranger. Thousands of AI-driven personas, each with their own name, memory, and personality, adapting in real time to whoever they happen to be talking to. In January of this year, 22 researchers published a warning about exactly this in one of the most respected science journals in the world. Tonight, we're talking about AI swarms and the psychological trick they're built to exploit. Your instinct to trust what looks like everyone agreeing. Think about the last time you scrolled through comments on a heated topic and thought, everyone agrees on this. That feeling right there is exactly the target. Let's start with what's actually new here, because disinformation online isn't new at all. Coordinated fake accounts, troll farms, and bot networks have existed for well over a decade now. What's changed is the sophistication and the speed. Old campaigns needed real human writers working in shifts, testing messages slowly over days or weeks. This new generation collapses that entire process down to something closer to real time. Old school bot networks were relatively easy to spot once you knew what to look for. Same phrasing, repeated across accounts, obvious grammar mistakes, no real memory of past conversations. What researchers are describing now is a completely different animal. AI-driven personas that hold a consistent identity over time and remember previous conversations. They adapt their tone in real time to whoever they're currently engaging with. That word, memory, is doing a lot of work in that description, and it's worth pausing on. Older bots had no continuity. Each post existed in isolation, disconnected from the last. These newer personas can remember a conversation from last week, reference it, and stay consistent for months. That consistency is exactly what makes them read as a real, ongoing person, not a scripted account. One researcher described it almost like an organism. Self-sufficient, able to coordinate, learn, and adapt to exploit human vulnerabilities. One of the lead researchers made a point that stuck with a lot of people who read this paper. The more sophisticated these systems get, the fewer of them you actually need to create an effect. A handful of genuinely convincing personas can now do the work that used to need thousands of crude ones. Some of these systems can even simulate mild disagreement among themselves to seem more authentically human. The detail alone shows how far this has moved past the crude, obvious bots most people picture. The real danger isn't even about spreading one big, obvious lie. Researchers gave it a specific name, synthetic consensus. The illusion that everyone already agrees with something. Picture logging into a forum and seeing dozens of seemingly independent voices, all landing on one conclusion. Your brain doesn't process that as 50 separate opinions. It processes it as evidence. This must be true, because look how many people believe it. That's the exact psychological lever these systems are built to pull. Here's the part that makes this genuinely different from anything that came before. These systems don't just repeat one script. They run millions of real-time micro-tests, testing slightly different versions of a message. Then they measure which version gets the strongest reaction and quietly amplify exactly that one. A single operator can deploy thousands of these voices at once, each one sounding like a genuine local, using local slang, local references, even local complaints. Traditional propaganda took teams of humans, weeks of effort, to test messaging like this. AI swarms can do it in hours. There's a specific, more targeted danger researchers highlighted, too. These systems can be aimed directly at individuals, journalists, whistleblowers, local politicians. Unlike old-school trolling, which just wanted to provoke a reaction to embarrass someone, this kind of pressure campaign isn't limited to public figures, either. Ordinary people who post something even mildly controversial in a local community group describe similar experiences. Picture a local journalist covering a controversial story in their own town. Within days, dozens of accounts start responding to everything they post, calm, reasonable sounding, always slightly critical. Not threatening, not obviously hostile, just relentless and strangely well-informed about local details. Over weeks, that constant low-grade pressure can start to feel like the whole town disagrees with them. Even if, in reality, only a handful of accounts, none of them real, are doing all the talking. These personas adapt to a target's specific responses, learning exactly what pushes them towards silence. Researchers call the resulting feeling epistemic vertigo, a fog of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Under that kind of pressure, people don't necessarily get convinced of anything specific. They just quietly retreat into smaller, private, closed spaces instead of speaking publicly at all. That retreat, multiplied across enough people, shrinks the shared public conversation society depends on. Here's a genuinely surprising twist. One of the researchers pointed out, you might assume all this fake activity mainly helps whoever's running the swarm. But there's a secondary effect worth sitting with. As trust in random, unknown voices online drops, people naturally start chirping famous accounts more instead. Which means this could paradoxically make it harder for small, genuine grassroots voices to break through. Not because they're being directly silenced, but because the environment around unknown voices gets harder to trust. Think about what that actually means for how information spreads going forward. That sounds protective on the surface, but it also means genuinely new, independent perspectives face a much steeper hill just to be believed at all. So why does this actually work so well on a psychological level? Humans are naturally conformist, more than most of us would ever admit about ourselves. If enough people appear to believe something, we instinctively assign it more credibility, almost automatically. There's one more psychological quirk worth knowing about, called source amnesia. Over time, people tend to remember a claim itself far better than where they originally heard it. Which means even after learning a claim came from a fake account, the claim itself can quietly stick around. Researchers studying misinformation have also found something called the continued influence effect. Simply being exposed to a claim repeatedly makes it feel more believable over time. Even after you've been shown a clear correction, combine those two effects, apparent consensus plus repetition, and you get a genuinely powerful lever. If you've watched our videos on algorithmic anxiety or the homogenization effect, this connects to both. Algorithms already shape what we see, and AI already nudges how we individually think and write. This is that same underlying pattern, just aimed outward at the shape of public opinion itself. Take a second and think about the last time you felt like everyone online agrees on this. Was that actually true, or did it just feel that way because of how comments happen to be arranged? That gap between feeling like consensus and actual consensus is exactly where this threat lies. Here's a slightly uncomfortable follow-up question worth asking yourself. If you found out a viral opinion you once agreed with had actually been engineered this way, would it change how true it felt to you? For most people, the honest answer is yes, even if the underlying argument itself never changed. Researchers aren't just raising the alarm without offering anything, either. They're pushing for a few specific defenses. Stronger tracking of where content and accounts actually originate from. Cryptographic verification that can help confirm whether an account is genuinely human-operated. And systems specifically built to detect consensus that's statistically unlikely to have formed naturally. A few platforms are already experimenting with some of these defenses. Flagging accounts with suspiciously synchronized posting patterns, requiring stronger identity verification for accounts that reach large audiences quickly. Researchers describe this as an arms race, with detection methods and manipulation techniques evolving side by side. None of these fixes are fully in place yet, but the direction of the research is at least clear. So what can you actually do with this, as one person scrolling through a feed? First, treat sudden, overwhelming agreement on a topic as a signal to slow down, not speed up trust. Second, ask whether an account has any real history, posts, photos, a consistent life, beyond just this topic. Third, remember that repetition isn't the same thing as truth, even when a claim starts to feel familiar. And fourth, protect a few real sources of information you genuinely trust and check back with them. Especially when something online feels urgent, emotional, and unanimous, all at the same time. Fifth, be especially cautious around topics engineered to feel urgent, since urgency short-circuits slow, careful thinking. None of this means you should assume every disagreement online is secretly fake. That's its own kind of unhealthy spiral. Most conversations online are still just people being genuinely, messily human. But it's worth knowing that the appearance of total agreement is no longer proof of anything on its own. Sometimes it's just proof that a system knows exactly which version of a message you'll believe. Awareness here isn't about becoming cynical about everything. It's about reserving your strongest trust for consensus that actually earned it. Every new communication technology in history has eventually been used this way: radio, television, the early internet. Each time, society eventually built new instincts and new literacy to adapt. This is simply the next chapter of that same, very old story, just moving much faster than before. The goal was never to make you afraid of the internet. It's to make sure the next time something feels unanimous, you pause long enough to ask why. That single pause, multiplied across enough people, is genuinely one of the best defenses researchers have right now. If this changed how you'll read your next viral comment section, that's exactly why I make this channel. I break down the psychology hiding inside the technology shaping how we think, connect, and see the world. So if you want more of this, go ahead and hit subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever caught yourself trusting something just because everyone seemed to agree? I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.